All live, family. Now we are live.
Good morning. This is the Straight Talk Morning Show. My name is Andre Hill, your host, and my co-host, Andre Hill Jr. What's going on, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Peace and love, everyone. We back.
Yeah. After several months, we're back, and we have the beautiful Denise Jones. She's on the, well, you're not on the West Coast. You're in what, Mid-Coast?
I'm Midwest.
Midwest.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. So, yeah, so, you know, it's rare to have beautiful, conscious sisters. Denise is one of them. She's very conscious. Denise, what's the name of your page?
Well, I have a couple of pages. The page that I have on Facebook is called To Zion. That's where I would like to just debate and, debate on serious situations that are happening in the world, within the Black community, within the, just in a community in general, major issues. And it's called To Zion. I do have a YouTube page that is called Surviving PTSD, Black Woman's Tale. It's just focusing on Black women and how, trying to encourage us to come together and inspire one another and, to getting over hardships and things of that nature.
So I strongly recommend our melanated sisters to join up with her because she is a leading authority on the metaphysical sciences of the universe. And a lot of you are still afraid to dwell in it. You're still apprehensive because it's outside the realm of your so-called Christian Islam studies. But it is the original sciences of reality. And for those that are, we're looking for that 144,000 right now. Our formula is to find the core group of conscious people, and we're going to manifest from that. And a lot of you need guidance, and to help you along, to help awaken you to a point where you say, oh, I am the master of my soul, and there is a you thousands of years in the future that's trying to guide you, or not trying, but it is guiding you into what we call a realm of spiritual perfection. And in order for us to, to dig in deep and find that Christ being with us, a lot of our people are waiting on a blonde, blue-eyed man to appear and resurrect us from the brink. But that person is you. You have died thousands of times over, and you are in the future, and you're coming back, helping your present day situation see the light and move in the direction of spiritual perfection. That's what our goal, everybody's goal should be. How am I going to acquire spiritual perfection? So I urge you to go to Denise's page on Facebook, join up with her. She might be a little softer than me or my son, in terms of from a feminine perspective, which is the most powerful perspective, because I've always said our women got all of their chromosomes, we got a mutated chromosome, so we're going to be a little harsh. But a woman can give you a more peaceful, subtle, nurturing perspective on how we're going to do this thing. Because, first and foremost, the men got to get their act together, and our women will come along and support us. But we must demonstrate that. So let's get into the topics of the show. Also, we have on the show Marvin Kennedy. She's an administrative person with our organization, and we're hopeful that she would chime in or ask a few questions about what happened in the Washington, D.C. Conference on what's being disclosed, what's being discussed that has a prominent effect on our future as a species, not just as melanated people, as a species. So we're gonna hit on all those topics as we go. So first and foremost, we talked about in the Facebook page, we posted this meeting, And basically the key items that we were talking about is that what we saw and experienced in Washington, D.C., what the shadow government is planning, their next move that's going to really, I don't think it's going to shock a lot of you, but it's going to hopefully wake you up to understand the reality of what you need to do or we need to do as a people. And then I put a point, I added a point, a special feature, what's about to happen to melanated people? You know, what are those options? So these are the basic topics of what's going on. And so, you know, one of the things that we put this offer out to several of the people that I met in Washington, D.C. at the conference. Several, there was 5 or 6 melanated people that was there at the conference. And so at some point, we all gravitated into one collective and started talking about what was going on at the conference. You know, so I saw a lot of things. I have some suspicions, you know, in terms of the purity of this agenda by majority of number one, Stephen Greer, he's the producer of Unacknowledged. And I think they did a very good job at exposing the reality of life here on planet Earth and the rest of the universe. What they basically revealed and confirmed, which I already knew, was that there are other life forms out in the universe. And some of these life forms are millions of years more advanced than what we are. And they seeded this planet millions of years ago through a cycle of ever expanding universe. So at some point, some of us will go out into the universe, find a desolate planet that just cooled down and going through certain biological changes, and we will be at a point where we will seed that planet for future generations to come back and continue the process of spiritual evolution. That's what it all boils down to, spiritual evolution. And so these are the things, you know, the people that were there in Washington, D.C., most of them were local. I was probably, me and Billy Carson were probably the only ones, only 2 or 3 guys that were from out of town. But 2 or 3 of those melanated people were local, and they were either former military or they are still working in the government. And so we, you know, I was hoping that they would be on. We had one that basically indicated that they would. But, you know, right now, as it stands, I'm the only one that attended that conference. So I'm going to try to share with the panel that we have today what I saw and what are some of your thoughts on what is happening in Washington, D.C. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the platform or set the stage for what I saw, what I read into Dr. Stephen Greer. He's a retired emergency room doctor that has put his whole life, you know, into exposing what the shadow government of Washington, D.C. has been doing with our taxpayers' money and been doing with technology that would have eliminated your electric bill, your water bill. All of these bills is just a mechanism of keeping you mentally, spiritually, physically, and psychologically enslaved. They're maintaining this antiquated technology because it enslaves you. If they was to create a paradigm where it was free and you had the time to develop yourself spiritually versus trying to hit a 40-hour-a-week job, then they lose control, you know. And so that's why they're continuing to suppress this knowledge and only allow a small percentage of humans to experience the euphoria of Earth or the universe as long as they are loyal to an agenda to continue to deceive and suppress knowledge here on planet Earth. And so the Disclosure Project I have to take my hat off to Stephen Greer, but I still think, you know, he's a few years younger than me. And I still think he has some missing pieces in the equation in terms of approaching an advanced civilization. Here's my main question. How are you going to approach an advanced civilization and you are the benefactor of white supremacy? You are a Caucasian male. How are you going to approach them and say, well, we are civilized now, but you don't have any strong melanated elders, a diverse mixture of melanated cultures standing with you to approach these beings? They're not stupid. They're millions of years or more advanced than us. So they're going to look at you like, really? You know, and so that's what this whole conversation is about. That's what the experience is about. And I'm going to kind of move in and move out of doing all the talking, because I want to put it to everybody on the panel to ask a question. But I'm going to lay it out. The conference was set up for over a 3-day period. And the first day, it went into a situation where we had people to different former government employees, pilots, government contractors that were hired by the United States government to work on different bases and facilities that was exposed to unusual extraterrestrial experiences. And so that was one of the issues that we dealt with. The other issue is that we got to be ready for the shadow government and what they're preparing. The shadow government has been reverse engineering and working with what I refer to as low frequency extraterrestrials to develop some limited technology that will appear to be extraterrestrial flying craft, but they were actually made right here on planet Earth. And so you can recognize these craft by, one, they usually have exterior components like pipes, rivets, seams in the molecular structure of these flying craft. Then you know that those were made here on Earth. Most of the extraterrestrial craft are seamless. You don't have exterior pipes running, lights. Well, you have lights, but you know, seams where you got to have to do these certain things in order to manipulate. And so this is very important that we understand this, that we put this out there for the public, because if the public is unaware of it, these mentally deranged psychotic maniacs will try to pull the wool over your eyes, because see, white supremacy is not working anymore. It's not going to work. And so they, at this conference, they show several instances where humans of Earth were operating these flying craft, what we refer to as electromagnetic propulsion craft. And they have, to a point, mimicked some of this technology for one reason. Since white supremacy is passing out, is fading, or is losing its grip in terms of dividing our species, they got to come in with a new game, and that's an alien, what we call a false flag alien invasion. So I'm gonna catch my breath and allow the panel at this point, and you know, if you have some questions about what we saw, you know, in terms of the witnesses who have witnessed, you know, certain things, the technology, you know, so I'm gonna open up the panel if you have for questioning. I'm gonna start over with my co-host here first to give everybody a chance enough to get to grab it. You have any questions or concerns about what went on?
Questions or concerns about the conference?
Yes, its purpose, Stephen Greer.
Yeah, the purpose. We can start with that. We can start with the purpose. Because, you know, you got to ask yourself, for people who have been interested and what was deemed as UFO phenomena for years. And they see that this group is pressing for disclosure, right? And if the government is going to release all of their interaction, technology, and or long-term, short-term planning with whatever it is that they got planned, then what was the plan after disclosure? Once disclosure happens, how did this particular group that threw this conference in DC, how do they want to facilitate the information and or apply the information in this mundane world? What was their, in other words, solution after gaining disclosure?
Very, very good question. So here's what they've done. They have 80 attorneys, 80. That's in different parts of the country. And what they're starting to do is file petitions in all of the court systems to indict this shadow government, employees that are suspicious or suspect of being a part of this cover-up. They're starting to break down now. A lot of them are realizing that they have been covering up a lie for a long time. Most of them are reaching an age where, hey, it's time for me to go check in with the high creator. How am I going to explain to the high creator, why did I lie and suppress this knowledge, which continue to cause pain and chaos, destruction, starvation on the planet? So they're starting to say, the hell with it, I'm gonna die anyway. And so they're starting to move into these very testimonials. I'm gonna explain two of the testimonials that were very credible a little later on in the story. But yeah, their approach is to file through all of these different attorneys, these 80 different attorneys in all of the states, file an indictment against these various agencies that have been conning United States taxpayer out of trillions of dollars. For example, a hammer or a screw for a toilet seat that would normally cost 45 cents, they would charge $300 and $400 for it. So what they're doing is what they call padding the invoice, and they've been doing this through the Pentagon over the last 70 years and building a whole army, an underground army of people that they have one intent, one objective, and that's to suppress information. If you have an extraterrestrial encounter, they will come to your house, they will look at your records, look at your means of survival, and tell you to your face, if you reveal this exposure, we're gonna create hell for you. And it's been working fine. It's working right now because, like I said, I was very hopeful that we would get a lot of participation. We're gonna do this over and over again. We have a YouTube pilot that's gonna be coming in pretty soon with the interview, and he revealed some serious information to me about an encounter he had. I'm gonna talk about that later on during the show. But yeah, to answer your question, what they intend to do is to go the legal route through the Constitution by saying that these extortion of lies and deceptions have violated the Constitution, and we're hereby going to file indictments against all of these particular governments. That's their message. That's their tactic. Now, from my perspective, melanated people still don't have a real dog in this fight because we don't have a budget for attorneys. We don't have no real influence over the Democratic or Republican Party. There's a totally different route that we're going to have to go as melanated people, and so we're going to talk about that option and later on. We're going to talk about our book Lucifer's Revenge. There's a menu, a playbook in the back of that book in the last chapter that give us a step-by-step plan of action for melanated people to move in a position to be able to underpin people like Stephen Greer. To first and foremost, let him know that no Caucasian man who is a benefactor of white supremacy is going to be able to negotiate on behalf of planet Earth. This planet, the likeness of the creator were Black people. There were Black people all over the planet. We lost our grip and we created this AI system that of Caucasian people, and they're doing exactly what they were doing. That's what this story in Lucifer's Revenge is all about. So I'm gonna pass the ball to Denise. Denise, based on what you saw, what you read, what you think about Stephen Greer, throw it at me.
Well, I believe that Stephen Greer has he has made a stamp in the UFO phenomenon and the alien encounter. I think melanated are us as Black people. We have a different perspective. We're not going to understand. We can understand some of the things that he's saying, but once we have to first understand our position. I don't, when you say that he can't take a stance for all of the people on planet Earth, talking to aliens or talking to beings from another planet, I have to agree with you. But the way it is now for melanated people, we're not tipping the economic bracket. We're not tipping socially. We're not tipping in unity. There has to be some substance from us to stand on that panel. Now, we can't just say that Stephen Greer we're just going to knock him off and, then we can stand up and talk to the people, because that.
We got a sound, Denise. Try to go away.
Huh?
Okay, you went silent for.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a call coming in. Forgive me.
Okay.
We can't rely on that. I think melanated people or Black people, we have gotten comfortable with relying on others to make decisions for us.
Absolutely.
We have just gotten comfortable, and we're going to have to be shooken up. As far as the the whole deception of a UFO sighting and all of that, I can't think beyond that. And I do have a gift, so I try to think beyond that. And you have to think, if someone is going to go out of their way to make such a broad deception, what else is really going on? What else is really going on? If that deception is going to happen, what is really going on? Because I truly believe it's not a deception. It's only said to us to make us believe it's a deception, but it's not a deception. As far as Stephen Greer, he's very knowledgeable. I think he has his position that he wants to implement a lot of things to bring that knowledge forward. We, as melanated people, need to engage in a way of learning how he's doing it, when he's doing it. I'm talking about getting his knowledge and just kind of follow him and see what and how he's getting his knowledge. we can go and say from our experiences, but we don't have any solid foundation. We don't have any stance on the level that he is standing on right now. So we have to do a lot of aiding and getting ourselves ready for that, because the truth is, if we as a people don't come together and make some type of change within ourselves, we and make a stamp on the economic bracket, because it's all about money and power. So if we don't make a stance, we will not exist. So first we have to get that together. And also keep in mind that because we see the government and the people in the forefront, they're not the ones that's actually running it. They're not. They're just like puppets. They're doing exactly what the alien species wants them to do. So we have to kind of look at things from a different perspective. I don't think that Stephen Greer is doing anything wrong or trying to do anything wrong. I think we need to step up on our knowledge and our effort to excel, to be on that same level. That's what I think. And I'm sorry if I went off and did not answer the question.
No,
I
you did good.
apologize.
Well, you did good. Now, one of the questions you asked was, how did he get, where did he get his knowledge from? And the research I did is that his father, and I'm not 100%, I remember him when I did some research on it, his father was in that community. And for some reason, his father was exposed to this technology, and which gave him the confidence to confront, as a emergency room doctor, that gave him a little prestige to go after these people. But he was born into that community, which is still a problem. One of the things you said that is very correct. We cannot depend, and my problem with Mr. Greer is that he's approaching this as, I am a Caucasian male emergency room doctor, and this is some bull crap, and we're gonna fix this for all of the ignorant and poor melanated people as well. They that's reversing the situation. You can't do that. You have generational curses. You're not in a position to dictate or act like a dictator that this is what we're gonna do. And melanated people better not be sitting back on their hind part waiting on a Caucasian man to be their savior. He can't do it alone. Definitely he can't do it alone. And that's the problem I have with this movement. And ultimately, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to tell you before I forget, because I'm kind of old. So
You're at that point.
but yeah, I'm at that point. But when you said that, he's a Caucasian and he's going out, he's saying, look, I'm a emergency room doctor. That's his power. So in his sense, you have to think in his sense, he's doing what he's always been told to do. He's doing always what he's been in the environment of doing. So we can't look at that as a bad thing. We have to learn from that. And I think we as melanated people have to learn how to examine another race, how to examine another species and learn from it. We are the most, I would say that Black melanated people, we don't do that. And we have to get in that atmosphere of learning and examining other races. So I see him, in other words, I don't see him as a threat. I see him as someone doing exactly what he was raised and taught to do. So how do you approach someone like that? You learn their moves. You learn what they're doing. and how they're doing it. And then you turn and you implement it. And you have your own wing to it, but then you turn and you learn what they're doing. It's kind of like what other nationalities been doing to the melanated and Black race for centuries, for years. So I'm sorry. That's the way I see that. I still don't see him as a threat, because it's about knowledge, and it's about knowledge is the power here. He's only saying and stating that, he's an emergency physician. To me, when you say that, the words power comes up in my head, because that is his power.
Right.
And it is in this time and day, it is his power. Well, what are we going to do as a people? What are we going to do as a melon? What is our plan of implementation to our people on what we've learned from what he's doing?
Absolutely. So
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was saying, so we cannot sit and just say, well, he is white America and he's trying to tear down. Let's don't do that. Let's look at what he's doing, how he's doing it, and turn and implement it on what we need to do to get on that level and higher frequency from our people.
Yes.
Yes, because he's not doing anything out of the norm. He's not. That is who he is.
Okay. Well, I mean, good point. And our strategy at this point as melanated people, what we're doing, Denise, is people like you. We got the chairman just signed on. How you doing, chairman? Oh, well, I think we're going through the tech. So we're focusing on a small core group of conscious people at this juncture, because these are very rare people, and this is a topic that my son and I were just discussing. Usually there's only one conscious person per family for some reason. I don't know. Denise, do you have any other conscious siblings or relatives in your family?
No, they're all asleep.
Okay.
And they just think they don't want to talk about UFOs and, no, they want to sugarcoat and hear the happiness. But look, that is the norm, because that's the way they've been conditioned. Right. So we, the ones that are knowledgeable of the hidden, of what's hidden, we're the ones that have to plant the seeds. Right. And we're going to have to start. I truly believe in the children. I believe the children are the future. Most people that are over a certain age, there's nothing you can tell them. They are set in their ways and they don't want to hear nothing else, Right. So we just have to teach our children and just teach the truth and let them be the judge and find the truth for themselves, or find the validate the truth when they get older.
So Denise, that is the strategy at this point. Like I said, my son and I was having this discussion tomorrow that he and I are rare. You have a father and son combination, but I support him and he'll support me, but that's rare. Usually in a family situation, it's just one, it's a law. Only one conscious person per family. And it's hard to get the support, the infrastructure needed for you to get on a platform to teach and educate when you are in a heavily enslaved system like the one we're in. So our strategy at this point, and there's an old saying, you find your true family later in life. The family you're born in, that's your generational family. That's your generational curse, or assets. But your spiritual family is the one you find later in life. And there are a few of us. And most Chairman, are you on yet?
I can't. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm on.
All right, so folks, this is our chairman of the Enlightened Ones, our political action committee that we had to put on hold because they came after us and started hitting us with all kind of charges and anything to stop melanated people from getting a political voice. So we're regrouping and we're reorganizing, but we're using this trip to DC, the disclosure, to hopefully wake up the people or the very small core group. We're looking for a small core group of conscious people right now. I refer to them in our new book, Lucifer's Revenge, as 144,000. You know, and that hope that puts you in the mindset that these people will be saved, but they have the opportunity to save others by coming together as a collective, demonstrating and manifesting miracles in front of our children and the other rest of the population so that they can see the possibilities. It has to be done by the very small group. We know that millions of our people are stuck, you know, they're like, hey man, I got to go hit this 40-hour week job. I got these payments and this and that. That is part of an illusion. You're living in a slave system, an illusion, and you're not growing spiritually living in the system. So we're recruiting the 144,000 to be involved with our next movement. We have a book coming out. And the chairman has a book, and we're encouraging you to buy these books because the income from Lucifer's Revenge is going strictly to building our nationality. That's the only way we can approach the United States of corporate America. You try to approach them as a citizen of the United States of corporation, they're gonna tell you to go through the proper protocol, which is all bullshit, you know. And so we have a playbook for the 144,000. But that's whether it's 144, if it's 144 conscious humans, melanated people, and you don't have to be melanated. You know, you'll know. This book will help you know if you're one of those select few. You got to come together within this collective and do what we do because the time is up. Time is up. So before I go to the chairman, I'm gonna bring him up to speed. Marvelous, did you have any questions or concerns about what you think this disclosure is all about?
Yeah, you say disclosure. So was Stephen Greer disclosing to people that already have his mindset, or were there people there that wanted to be there to learn? And the other thing is the press conference. What was discussed there, and did they disclose everything that went on during the convention or conference?
Yeah, so at the press conference, it was regurgitating everything that went on, but the objective was to get NBC, ABC, CBS, all of the major news companies there so that they can put this out there. They didn't show up. They may have showed up with cameras and recorded it, but they did not broadcast this. So they're all controlled, as we knew, by this shadow government. That's who they're getting their money from. And they said, you can go out there and record it, but you're not going to put this on major news that there's a movement of Caucasian people with a few melanated people that are getting ready to indict this shadow government, all of its agents, and confront this situation. So that's what happened at the press club. What was you gave two questions.
I was asking whether or not the majority of the people were already of the same mindset, or were there people?
Okay, so most of the people there were 350 attendees. Out of the 350 attendees, there were like 6 or 7 of us melanated people. The Caucasian people that were there, I believe that they were all conscious, because first and foremost, it costs you a minimum of $600 to attend this conference. And in order to attend it, you know, in my case, I had to fly in, you know, and move aboard. Luckily, DC is my second home, so I had somewhere to stay. But yeah, if you paid that kind of money to show up, most of the people in there were already conscious and believed in this thing. That was what. Chairman, hold on. I have Stephen Kerwood. He just honed in. He was there at the conference. Stephen, how you doing, sir?
Hey, good morning. Sorry, sorry that I'm late. I had this down, but anyway, we're doing some construction. Long story short, I said, "Oh my God, supposed to be back on the circuit at 11." But I'm glad that you guys are still here. It's so great to join you.
Absolutely. So Stephen, I'm gonna bump you up ahead of our chairman Terrence because I wanted you to give a view of what you saw. I was gonna, I invited Nimi and Connie, so they have not signed on. Nimi indicated that she would. I did not hear from Connie. If Brother Kerwood, if you could, would you explain to the panel and our listening audience what you saw at the conference?
Well, I think probably, it's probably great to go look at some of the tape. There was like an 11-minute thing, a takeaway that Greer did afterwards about what was the most important thing that you saw. And that really summarizes it. So what he had was he had whistleblowers, the guy who had flown the U-2s that you sent me a note about, Andre.
Yes, I talked to him yesterday.
Was there. He had this Marine that had quite a story about human-made vehicles that emulate the technology, and a very difficult scene. And he also talked elliptically about what's going on Capitol Hill. But what I've noticed since then, and of course there was a parallel disclosure project with this guy who hadn't actually seen anything, but is talking about it. Look, Greer's, I think Greer's videos are very helpful on this. The disclosure, what is the disclosure thing that he just put up, talking about this, because it's so complex. There's so many elements. There's technology. There's the whole business of the need to have consciousness, to have the CE5 stuff. It's huge. But his videos really boil it down. There's a couple. While we're here, I think the most value I can add is to quickly look. There's about an 11-minute one that is really, really worth. He was interviewed by somebody who said, "Well, what did you really do at this thing?" And let me see, my computer is not being helpful here. But it's about 11 minutes long, and it really says it all. One of the things that Andre and I both noticed, though, at this thing is that, man, the thing is very, very white. I mean, they had the dude from that previous interview series. I think, Andre, you called him his, quote, his Negro, close quotes. But they don't understand the need for diversity here. I'm looking on my desktop for this, because this I thought was really excellent. And I had my kids, maybe it's on my phone. Let's take a look.
Mr. Kerwood, I took the liberty to try to find it myself. I think I did. You say it's about 11 minutes long.
It is, yeah. Let's see. What do you got here? Let me go back to our screen here.
Let's see if I can share it.
Yeah, that's already the framing. Yep, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
I think you should share it with everybody, because this is going to be much faster than me stumbling around trying to explain.
Go ahead.
All right. Who did it? Okay.
Is the evidence that there is a clandestine and illegal operation that has hidden and stolen from humanity the solutions to the biggest problems we're facing. And I think these 5 whistleblowers who come forward are given evidence of their little involvement, what they saw. But I think the bigger picture is the fact that these technologies are real, and it means that we can have, as this extraterrestrial said to Colonel Corso when he had a meeting back in the 50s at White Sands, and the ET, the colonel said, when the ET said, "Will you help us with this?" And the colonel said, "What's in it for me?" Very brusque, and he admits he was a sort of arrogant, brusque Air Force colonel. And the extraterrestrial said, "A new world if you can take it." So I think that's the biggest part of this, is that on the one hand, there's a very disturbing covert group that's not being overseen properly by the government, and which is illegal and unconstitutional. But the good news is, if we can correct that problem and bring these technologies out, it will be a new world, if we can take it. So that was said in 1956. Now, how long ago was that? 67 years ago.
Yeah.
So 2/3 of a century later, I think we need to take it. I think the other important part of this, which I think is very key, is the testimony and information about the physics of the so-called scalar and neutrino light systems, which we have had people there at the South Pole Raytheon station. Those systems are both tracking in deep space, but are also weapon systems. And there is a huge problem with those sort of technologies being used by rogue elements, not being okayed by the international community or even the Pentagon and White House and Congress. So those sorts of technologies need to be put on a short leash very, very quickly.
Because that puts now us in danger, right?
Of course.
Where you say otherwise ETs are not a threat to us.
Oh, they're not a threat, but there's a universal right to self-defense. And I tell people when they this obsession, of course, is more the human narcissism. I say, if you want to know where the threat in the universe is, go to a mirror and look at it. It's what humans are doing. It's not what these civilizations are doing. By the way, these civilizations are so advanced technologically, but also socially and spiritually, that they're very, very peaceful. And why? If you had the consciousness of what humans have now, where we fight over the Ukraine and every scrap of land and aiming nuclear missiles at each other, now take that mindset, but now instead of nuclear weapons and missiles, put in, faster than the speed of light technologies. Those civilizations would extinguish themselves in a nanosecond. So I think part of this, we need some scientific literacy so we get out of this sort of mythology of the War of the Worlds nonsense. But on the other hand, I think that we're at risk for these civilizations at a certain point having this very rogue group, illegal, run through a red line. I call it the extraterrestrial red line. How far can we go doing this sort of reckless, dangerous behavior before they have to clip the wings of those folks? Now, the danger and the reason they're not doing it is that if the extraterrestrial civilizations did it, it would be portrayed by the lame media and these spin doctors in these covert programs as an alien invasion, when in reality it isn't. In fact, even the witnesses we had come out in 2001, a couple of them were at nuclear facilities where ET craft went in and disabled some. And they felt that the ETs were protecting us from ourselves. But then there were charlatans in the media and the UFO community that took that same testimony and raided our witnesses and spun it into Alien Invasion Week on the History Channel. So here's the problem. These civilizations are very smart. They don't want to have to intervene. They want humans to fix the problem because this is our planet. So my exhortation to our leaders and to the public is, we need to fix this problem before it gets any further out of control. And it's been out of control for over 60 years. I think one of the most interesting revelations about that's coming out is the extent to which we have these top secret whistleblowers, of which at the conference we only had about half of 1%, right? And imagine that if there's a proper investigation or our civilian RICO lawsuit, and all these can be put under oath and it comes out, imagine the impact that will have. I very much hope that the Congress, and I know many members of Congress and staffers watched, if not in present, remotely, because it was streamed, as you know, that they will then, pick up the ball from here. Because look, I mean, we're a private civilian organization. We have no governmental authority. I can provide evidence and we can provide perspective and advice. That's the best I can do. I don't have any legal authority at all, other than just like you or me, I'm just a regular guy, a civilian. Enough evidence has been presented there for them to take the ball and run. And I think the other one that's sort of shocking for people is this witness, a Marine, who saw that these technologies were being used in man-made anti-gravity devices involved in clandestine and illegal operations, and he was threatened with being executed. And so this is a theme that also triggers a RICO action, and that is the intimidation and extra legal or illegal killing of people or threatening of people. So I think that is also one of the big headline events, because I think that tells the public this is serious business and it needs a serious response from the authorities, including law enforcement.
Are you overall optimistic about that we will solve our own issues?
Well, I think one way or another it will be. The only question is it going to go, are we going to allow ourselves to just get run further into the ground and perhaps have a geophysical or environmental catastrophe? Or do we have the wisdom and the courage to do the right thing now and do an intervention? And I think, frankly, I don't think we have another 100 years to fritter away. I don't think we have 20. So I think that it's very important that everyone, I always joke, anyone between the ages of puberty and senility, get involved with this and take the action to write their elected representatives, and also anyone listening who is himself or herself a whistleblower or witness to these events or knows someone, they should contact us. And so what we want to do is, the few people that are coming forward publicly now, we want that to become, that trickle needs to become a torrent.
Yeah.
We need to have thousands of people who are whistleblowers coming out publicly, with or without the US Congress and the White House acting. Because this is massive public action, and it's the foundation of our democracy and freedom, is that people have freedom of speech. One of the things we pointed out, I think is a big headline, is that since these projects are illegal, those people who have signed non-disclosure agreements are not bound by them. Because if I'm a mafia guy and you have a contract with me, but the operation I'm running is criminal, I cannot enforce that contract. So all of these people who have been in these government and corporate programs, including the ones at Lockheed and Northrop and elsewhere, they're unbound absolutely not at all by any security restrictions or non-disclosure agreements. And this is a point we made during the Clinton years, that the underlying projects are criminal, and therefore, while they have signed these documents, they have no enforceability under law. And the other huge headline from this is we now have over 40 attorneys, right, that are ready to represent the whistleblowers and also launch a RICO action against the individuals and corporations that are culpable.
Live golf. It's about adrenaline. Chase Koepka has delivered. It's about.
What would you say to because
They want to cut the whole video?
Yeah.
But I think it keeps going. I think it keeps going after that silly ad. I think it keeps
Go ahead. Play for a second.
you mentioned the kind of puberty generation. What would you say to the kind of the TikTok generation that are out there, and the honestly the power that they have with influence, with awareness,
Yeah.
making a topic so big? What would you say to them?
Well, we need their help. I'll tell you very bluntly, because our group is an unfunded public interest group that has no funding. What we can do is get this information to those sorts of folks and ask them to put out clips of the video of it, put out links to what we're doing, links to the lost century and how to retrieve it. Because that generation, these are my children and grandchildren's generation, are exactly the people who, if we don't get this right, are going to inherit a terribly difficult situation on this planet. And so almost all of those younger folks are very concerned about the environment and poverty and justice. Well, there can be no justice if we are deliberately keeping the technologies away from the world that would eliminate poverty and inequality around the world. There can be no environmental future if we don't bring out something better than a solar panel. So I hope that this message resonates with people of all generations, but and I'm glad you mentioned this, the folks on TikTok and social media, and which of course I have no social media skills whatsoever. I'm better with a ventilator or a chest tube or something, but I think that,
Yeah.
but there are people who are very good at that. We
Yeah.
need a lot of people who are big influencers.
But you're really good at resonating with those people, right? Like the Demi Lovato's of the world,
Yes,
the
right.
Miley Cyruses of the world, who will resonate. They see there is some truth in it, and they want it to get out there.
They
They're
do.
curious,
They
at
do.
least, right?
And we need that
Yeah.
help. Actually, I would encourage more people like Demi Lovato and others who are interested in this to drop links for us, put the word out, because really we simply don't have the funding that, usually even a feature film like this would have millions of dollars
yeah.
in marketing. We have nothing. So we have to rely on the word of mouth and the good graces of people who understand what we're trying to achieve. And to do the right thing and help us. So yeah, I do want to make that appeal for everyone's help.
Yeah. Dr. Greer, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
You're great.
appreciate it.
Really great. Thank you.
All right, Steve, your thoughts?
I think that really summarizes it in an excellent way, what was going on there. I mean, it cuts right to the chase, the technology, the secrecy, and then both the opportunity and the need to try to cash in on this opportunity before it's too late. And I don't know where everybody else is on this call, but the sky is loaded with these particles from the fires in Canada and everything right now from in many places. And so the environmental, the climate disruption thing is just like rushing ahead. And if we, Greer says we don't need fossil fuels with this technology, and fossil fuel combustion kills 300,000 of us a year in this country alone. So that's the basic message. That's the basic message of what he had to say. I will say one other thing, which is interesting. Over the last couple of days, I've noticed that, I did a little bit of research. So he made a lot of noise about this law that got enacted at the holidays, the defense appropriations, whatever that measure that protects people who want to step forward as whistleblowers. And he made a lot of mention of that. So I did a little digging to see who sponsored that. It's a very conservative congressman by the name of Gallagher. He's from the intelligence community. He's a former Marine, and he's been to the intelligence graduate schools and all that kind of stuff. He's, CIA type person. He was behind this. And then just in the last day or two or three, there's been all this chatter from Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, saying that he has heard things that, kind of would blow your mind, much more and that the whistleblower that was trotted out to compete with Greer, the guy who hadn't seen anything but had heard things that got all the publicity, he said there's way more beyond that. Let's see. By the way, so Andre the Third, what do you call yourself? Are you Andre?
He's
Well, I'm the junior, Andre the second.
Oh, you're the second. Okay. So you're junior. So what's the nickname? Are you, people call you junior, or they call what?
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work.
Everybody calls you junior. Hey,
Indeed.
if you could send the link around for what you just found, that would be really great, because I've had trouble finding it.
Okay.
But I'm going to find a little link that I think will get people now what's really interesting for us, now I'm going to probably make an assumption here, because I could be wrong, because there is Tim Scott in the Senate, but you know, many people like us don't have, you know, the Republican Party is essentially a white person's party now, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
But these guys, let's see, I'm trying to find this. This conservative Congressman Gallagher and Marco Rubio, who plays himself pretty conservative. Let me see if I can find this. Are the ones that are really saying, here we go. I think I have this. So I'm gonna pop this up for a moment. I don't know if I'm allowed to share, but if I am, I will. Am I allowed to share the screen?
Yes, you are allowed to share.
Okay, so let me. Okay, so this little video, this is kind of interesting. Oh, I didn't click the share audio. I'm going to share sound. So check this out.
Correspondent Joe Khalil just wrapped up an interview with Rubio a little while ago. He joins me live now. All right, Joe, this is quite a development. I know you've been trying to track down Rubio for quite some time. I don't think any of us expected him to say something this.
Are you guys seeing this now?
Yes.
It's telling me that my screen sharing is paused, but if you're seeing it, great. Okay. So this is like tape that's 2 or 3 days old. This is fairly new, certainly since the conference, but I think just over in the last 2 or 3 days. I'll start it again. Sorry.
Correspondent Joe Khalil just wrapped up an interview with Rubio a little while ago. He joins me live now. All right, Joe, this is quite a development. I know you've been trying to track down Rubio for quite some time. I don't think any of us expected him to say something this explosive. Break it down for us.
Yeah, it was a big deal, Brian. And so let's start off with the fact that Grush himself, self-admittedly, is a secondhand witness bringing these claims forward, right? So he is not in the rooms seeing these alleged air.
So this was the competing, Andre, I don't know how much you told this was the competing disclosure thing to try to take the focus away from Greer. At the same time, they had this guy who people like the New York Times, everybody picked up on, who hadn't actually seen things himself, but had talked to people who had seen things. His name was Grosh, I think, David Grosh. And that's what got most of the publicity. So that's what they're referring to here. But
Yes.
Involved with
right.
these alleged programs that exist, but he was talking to people who have seen those things. He was getting information from people who were in those programs. Well, tonight, Senator Rubio said that he, the senator, has heard from those firsthand account witnesses to some of these claims. And I tried to press him and asked him in a number of different ways. Okay, the people who are saying that they have seen these things up close and personal, spacecraft and others, you have heard from those people who've made those claims. And here's what the senator told us. I'm going to play a big chunk of our exchange.
We'll say there are people that have come forward to share information with our committee over the last couple of years. I would imagine some of them are potentially some of the same people that perhaps he's referring to. I want to be very protective of these people. A lot of these people came to us even before these protections were in the law for whistleblowers to come forward.
Sorry, people who have had firsthand knowledge, who claim to have firsthand knowledge of seeing this type of thing,
or have firsthand knowledge or firsthand claims of certain things. Some are public figures, and we've heard from them in the past. Others, have not shared publicly. And so we're trying to gather as much of that information as we can. And the reason why I'm being cautious, not trying to be evasive, but I am trying to be protective of these people. Some of these people still work in the government. And frankly, a lot of them are very fearful of their jobs, fearful of their clearances, fearful of their career. And some, frankly, are fearful of harm coming to them.
So that category of people who have firsthand knowledge, who say they have actually seen these kinds of things, do you find many of them credible?
Well, I don't find them either not credible or credible because we have no basis. Understand some of these claims are things that are beyond sort of the realm of what any of us has ever dealt with. What I think we owe them is just a mature, understand, listening and trying to put all these pieces together and just sort of intake the information without any prejudgment or jumping to any conclusions in one direction or another. I will say I find most of these people at some point, or maybe even currently, have held very high clearances and high positions within our government. So you do ask yourself, like, what incentive would so many people with that kind of qualification, these are serious people, have to come forward and make something up?
So
we should be selling energy to our allies instead of buying it from our enemies. But Joe Biden shut down our oil and gas production. True energy independence.
Stop this.
Gas prices, unleash the economy, and strengthen national security. In North Dakota, we'd call that a no-brainer.
Okay, finally. So,
Small town,
stop.
Self-made business leader, remarkable governor. For a changing economy.
Now, as we can still hear the audio from the video. All right, now it's stop.
Okay. So what were you saying, Steve?
Well, so this is, to my mind, this is something of a game changer.
Yeah. Come forward and make something up.
Because Greer said, Greer says that there's this massive disinformation campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And, everything from the videos that we saw of the TikToks, that's our stuff.
Right.
And everyone has been dancing to that tune, except now for Marco Rubio in public like this. And then I think this Congressman Gallagher behind the scenes. And I haven't seen stuff from Kirsten Gillibrand, but she also signed off on this. And the legislation that they are putting forward would criminalize anybody who keeps this stuff secret.
Okay.
So this is Greer is getting some traction here.
Yeah. Now, Steve, our issue here is, and this is something that I noticed, and I'm going to do a demonstration after the statement. His respect for the elders from various cultures need to be incorporated in this. And one of the things that I asserted earlier was that how are you going to approach an advanced civilization, and you are an emergency room doctor, which is the benefactor of an illicit medical system, and a Caucasian who is benefiting from white supremacy? How are you going to go and represent the human race without an inclusive, diverse culture of elders? Now I'm getting ready to demonstrate what a diverse culture of elders should do. Now, Florida is my home state. I'm here in Tampa, and I can go to Tallahassee and represent our coalition. But I'm going to, before I do that, I'm going to ask you, Steve, I'm going to ask Terrence, Marlon, and Denise, and my son. I'm going to say, what are your thoughts? Should I go to Tallahassee and underpin Rubio on what he's doing. What will be your thoughts on that?
Who are you asking that?
Your recommendation, is that a move that we should make? Because see, our move right now is first and foremost getting all the conscious people. Our strategy to getting melanated people involved is first and foremost identifying already conscious people, not people that we got to go educate and teach. People that naturally understand what's going on and want to be a part of this collective. Then we can demonstrate by example. That's plan one. Plan two is establish a dual citizenship. We need to go back to our Aboriginal nationality along with our corporate American US citizenship, and then operate from both of those realms, meanwhile building our Aboriginal status where we have credibility to go and negotiate not only with the United States of corporate America, but other or companies throughout Africa and the Caribbean that want to sit down and talk to us. What are your thoughts on those plans?
Well,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just say this real quick. I think, again, it has to be strategic. I know you want to go, but I think there should be a kind of a formal contact, and then really concentrate on what questions you want to ask and what you want to gather from it, from the meeting with them. That's what I think, because I'm hearing ambush. It's more of a desperate move, and that's not what we want to show. You know, we want to get them on board. So there has to be some thought into the next move or how you move.
Absolutely. And this is a demonstration that melanated people are going to have to practice if we want to position ourselves, if we want to sit at the table to negotiate with these advanced civilizations that are waiting on us. Like, why are you melanated people with your magnificent, symmetric, beautiful bodies? Why are you subjecting yourself to this ignorant slave system and this illusion? But go ahead, Steve, and I want to share this around. I wanted to get, you were there at the convention, and that was some very powerful information to share. But I just wanted to get your insight. What we're attempting to do, even though we would like for more people to join our collective, we want them to buy our literature so that we can generate the finances and revenues to move into establishing our nation state, to start identifying, confiscating land that was taken illegally by the United States of corporate America, start developing housing, self-sustainable communities for our people. But the only people that are able to do that is conscious people like us. And that's who we're recruiting right now. We're not recruiting the millions, even though we want them to be sensitive, but we got to get the first group in that understands how to manifest miracles through positive thought, through a collective effort. That's the number one tactic that we're working on.
So I think that Blair actually offers a very powerful path for this. And, he's into this. He came into this through meditation. Because the way to reach the ETs is the CE5 experience. Am I talking Greek to everybody here if I say CE5?
No, I know exactly. And we were preparing to do the same thing.
Well, CE5 works. I mean, my wife and I, last month we did one. They came to see us. They stand off because they get shot at literally by us. So they don't like to show themselves too much. But we got, we saw some craft. Mostly there were orbs that we saw. kind of the Demi Lovato experience. She talks about the orbs going by her when she was out there at Joshua Tree.
Right.
Because I think that, and I also think, there's a lot of BS out there, but the story of the visit to Zimbabwe at the school, I believe that story. I think they're smart about race on this planet and such. Again, they're advanced civilizations. They understand. So they don't want to interfere, but I think they would like to help us. So I think if we get more people of color, more melanated people, as you say, to get involved in this process of directly communicating with them.
Yes.
Then I think that's the most powerful. I think that's the most powerful move that we could make, because I think it's fascinating, by the way, that these relatively right-wing folks, Rubio, this guy Gallagher, there's another congresswoman from Florida whose name has been associated with some of this legislation. They're really conservative. I think the reason they're involved is because they tend to be with the military. They tend to be with, the security apparatus. And I think they're pissed that they have been cut out, that there is this, that there's this, whatever Greer talks about, this rogue element or whatever has kind of cut them out. But I don't think we need them as brokers for us. Andre.
No, we don't.
No, I think we can deal directly with the ETs who will don't want to intervene, except that if things really go crazy. This is just a crazy idea, and you guys can laugh at me. But last week, or was it the week before, when the Russians started squabbling amongst themselves and the Wagner group headed for Moscow, that thing suddenly dissipated like an ice cream cone in the middle of a hot day, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the ETs are very concerned about our atomic weapons. They're very concerned about our nuclear weapons.
Absolutely.
And if civil war had broken out in Russia, then what would have happened to those nukes? And I think that they,
shut it down.
Whatever reason, they shut it down. Because and I know that sounds really woo-woo, but I don't have a better explanation.
Well, Steve, here's something that I do a CE5 every night, 24/7. As a matter of fact, I have to take a sedative to shut it down. Okay. Every time, like this broadcast that we're doing right now, every time we demonstrate a need to solve this problem, the ETs are watching us right now. They go like, okay, there's a little hope. Let's give them a little bit more rope. Let's give them a little bit more room.
Exactly.
Every time. All we have to do is demonstrate we're coming together as a collective to fix this problem.
Exactly.
But Steve, now I got my chairman on, and he has a book and a movie coming out, and I got to give him some airplay. Chairman Terrence Lake, how you doing, sir? How you been?
Well, I'm doing fine. I'm just flabbergasted over this conversation, because I've always thought this way, for many years, like saying that I wrote the book. That book was over 50 years ago. And people laugh at me when I said that we came from other solar systems to planet Earth. They said, oh, he's cuckoo, But now the government is starting to expose things. And I'm a firm believer in most people believe what they see and not what you tell them. They just don't have that open mind. And how you guys are describing everything, you're not showing, but I understand it. I see it. I see that's that, that magic wand, in a sense, but it's not magic. It's just something that But a lot of people, you got to show them. That's one reason why I wrote the book. The people can see it, show them a positive future. Too many people, they're just too involved in thinking that the government's going to solve all their problems. That's why they don't want to get involved in, thinking about extraterrestrials or the threat of it. They figure the government's got their back. And, you know, they just don't want to make a move. You know, you could talk to them till you're blue in the face and they just still don't want to get involved. And like you were talking earlier about family, sometimes family can be your worst enemy because they will laugh at you and just keep going to church believing that Jesus is going to come and save everybody. And that's not the case, because Jesus died a long time ago. If there was a Jesus, I can understand the theory about Jesus, but sometimes I wonder, was there ever a real Jesus, you know? But, you know, the church has got people believing in that because they got that collection plate going every day or every week, Sundays, you know, and they don't want anyone to disrupt their apple cart, you know. But the future is in space, you know, follow the money. 3 of the richest men on this planet got their own space programs. And I know a black brother, which you all know of, Billy Carson, he's got a space program. And it's going to cost money to go out there. But when you get people and generate this program, it's going to bring in billions of dollars, you know, because that's what people want to do. And if you don't believe it, go back before the airplane. When the airplane came out, only the rich could ride. But now everybody can ride. And it's going to be the same way with the space program. And they got it all set up. And they've been setting this up for years, even before I was born, but they just didn't have the technology. But now they got the technology. There was somebody said, we got the technology now, we can take ET home, you know. But we got to get people to see things, you know, because you can talk till you're blue in the face, you know. And in some ways, the Bible is a good book, but some ways it's not. But it's not getting us where we want to get as a whole. It's only benefiting the chosen few. And we got to get away from that. That's just, it's not helping. You know, it's not helping.
All right, Chairman. So the whole purpose of this meeting, and you know, with Steve, and we have a few other people that attend the conference that we were making contact with. The whole purpose of this is that right now, as it stands, once again, the salvation of humanity is being placed on the shoulders of a Caucasian male, younger than I am. He's 3 years younger than I am. That's a former emergency room doctor with a tremendous ego. And I tried to reach out to him, and I didn't get that warm and fuzzy feeling. I understand he's paranoid or worried about, but the bottom line is he's going to have some faith and understanding. I cannot choose the melanated people that's palatable to me to represent this movement. He's going to have to sit down with elders like Steve, like you, Chairman, Marvin, myself, you know, and talk about how we're going to incorporate this movement. Now, you know, as a collective, as a human species. But right now, in the book that I've written, Lucifer's Revenge, it's a step-by-step, I call it a guide for the 144,000. It's a step-by-step outline of what the very small group of us can do. Like Steve's saying, we don't have to go through Stephen Greer or the United States government to start talking to the extraterrestrials. If we come together as a collective, pure in heart, and say, this is what we want to do, and move in that direction, they will back us. The fear factor, well, but every time we tried to do something in Rosewood, in Oklahoma City, they came and killed us. No, the way where we are now, we have evolved. And when we implement the collective effort of elders, melanated people, or Caucasian people that are operating on our frequency, if there are any, we can approach them and we can separate from this Luciferian system. Lucifer is not going to change his tactics. His contract is up. And so now what Lucifer's system is doing is the old saying, misery loves company. They're committing as many souls to their system for whatever reason, whether it's the next cycle, whatever the case might be. They're on course. Only we can change the heading on this planet as a collective. And the elders from our community, we have to bring our heads together and demonstrate by example. That's where we are now. the reason why we shut the show down, because we were putting the knowledge out there, putting the knowledge, people was watching it. But now we've gone beyond that point of listening and talking. We're at that point of implementation. And I'm not talking about months and years. I mean, years or decades. This is within the next few months. This shadow government is planning a false flag alien invasion. That's all they have left to get humans to submit to a new slave system. And the primary objective that I talk about in Lucifer's Revenge is that part of Lucifer's Revenge, if we look at the Anunnaki story, and he was a beautiful, let's say, a military person in the Anunnaki scheme of things, and then he initiated a resurrection. That means that Lucifer was black in the beginning. So if you go to upaall.com, you'll see on our book cover the image of Lucifer and what happened to him when he lost the privilege. This is very critical. He lost the privilege of a beautiful, symmetric, melanated body. And when you lose that privilege, he had to incarnate into a reptilian. And this book explains the story, the Lilith factor, and all of these things, how we got to this point. Now, all the way up to the conclusion of what we need to do step by step by step for the salvation of our planet and our children. So we're no longer, I'm of the mindset, I'm not out there trying to get a million or a billion people. We need, whether it's 144 or 144,000 or 1.444 million, we need you to, if you're already conscious, if you're already prepared to get with this movement, by purchasing this book. It's only a $19.99 book. Purchase this book. All the proceeds are going to implement the protocol of us setting up our nationality, to setting up an agenda to move in the direction of negotiating with the United States, corporate America, or other melanated countries to create a real intrinsic value currency so our children can get out of this Luciferian system, having to sell their souls, their bodies to anything to pay their rent or eat food on their own planet. This must end. If it can end the easy way, or it can end the real easy way. All right. So I'm going to spread the panel around. Steve, do you have any closing thoughts on this?
Well, one of the things that I think is very powerful, I'm going to go back to the CE5, because Andre, you might want to think about getting a group together for the CE5. It seems that they are more powerful the more people who come together in a conscious CE5. And there's an opportunity on Monday night, by the way. It's a full moon again. And it's a powerful time to do it, because the theme obviously is peace. And if conscious people come together and bring them in using spirituality, I mean, that's how they communicate. This is telepathic. Yes. It's going to be very powerful. So getting a good sized group of, as you say, melanated folks together to do this, I think would be very powerful.
Yes.
Then they will get the word. I think they respond. I mean, look at how far Greer has gotten himself with them, with all the problems that he has. He's amazing. He's a genius, but he's not perfect. He doesn't know how to make movies. He doesn't know how to relate to Black people, all kinds of things he doesn't. I mean, think about it. But there's all kinds of amazing things that he has been able to do. But his secret sauce is that he has this connection. He reaches out to them, they talk to them, they guide him. I think, frankly, that they're guarding him now. I think that, Andre, as you said, that it's a pretty tough, there's a rough crowd who does not like him, and he stayed alive. Why?
Yeah, you gotta give that some. It's got to be there protecting them. Because and I'm gonna be an optimist. They're protecting them on our behalf. And so that we can get the courage to do it ourselves, because it's going to be very difficult for you ever heard the old saying, bite the hand that feeds you? So if Lucifer created this AI body of Caucasian people, it's going to be very hard for you to bite the hand that feeds you under the white supremacy program, to overthrow that without the protection of these melanated or these advanced beings. So I think I know that they're doing it on our behalf, and to give us the opportunity. We've been beat down, man. We've been beat down really hard on this planet as melanated people. And that's what this whole story of Lucifer's Revenge is all about. But we can overcome it. But we have to get rid of these egos. We have to get rid of these selfish agendas about, I got to get rich, I got to get mine, you better get yours. This is why our children don't respect my generation, because we just turn them over to that Luciferian economic system, and they is afraid to let that go. Hey.
Exactly, but do the math. 80% of the planet is brown.
Yeah.
80%.
Yeah.
So if consciousness raising happens, I mean, I think Greer's math is that if he could get 70 million people, when I saw that video a few years ago, maybe now it's 80 million because there are 8 billion of us. If we get 1% of us to be reaching out, that will be enough, because the ETs are concerned. What did he say, that like we've shot down 119 of their craft or something?
Right.
Our technology has gotten so good that they're not magicians. They're not immortals. They just have way better technology and the ways. But I like to say to people that we're like those uncontacted tribes. If we showed up in the middle of the Amazon or something, trying to reach those people, our terrified, we'd have a bunch of arrows in our butts, right? Because of the xenophobia, right? I mean, even though we might have, quote, superior technology, we have our technology is sufficient enough to really raise the risk for them. But they also know that we're at a crisis point, that once we got the atomic weapons thing going, which means that we could destroy the whole ecosphere of the planet within a day or two or a week or a month. I mean, it doesn't take, if we exploded all those bombs. And then plus what we've been doing with climate disruption, and they can see the effects of that since World War II. Things are getting hotter and hotter. They know it's an emergency here. So they need help. They need the way cleared for them, so that if they step forward or help us stepping forward. And right now, as you say, the game plan is to call them, to complain about an alien invasion. So they show themselves now, it will just, more arrows are going to come at them.
Right.
So they need our help. And I just go back to the CE5, collective CE5s. The more people who get this connection, who really feel it. I haven't heard from the other people on this call how much you've actually, because it's powerful when you actually get in contact with them. Oh my God, they're really there. This isn't a joke. This isn't an idea. It is for real. And if they were bad boys, we'd all been smoked already, right? So they have to have a positive outlook towards us. So how do we help them bring peace? Because that's their mission. They need peace on this planet.
Right.
So it does make it awkward that the most interested public officials now, like the Rubios, they're from the right wing. They're from sort of the military crowd. I think they're just angry that this other part of the military crowd has cut them out of the game. But we need to, I think we need to come at it. And it's a white male thing. It's a very white male thing that's going. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I have to step away for just a second.
So basically, what Steve is saying about the CE5, where Black folks can understand this, it's like a prayer session. But this is not, we're going to get down on our knees and say, Lord, please. No, you have to be pure in heart. You have to remove all your personal agendas, you have to put them aside. And we have to come out there as a collective and a group that's going to say, we want to open up to the supreme consciousness of the universe. Please come and contact with us. And in some cases, certain people that attend these meetings, usually they have them out in a remote place, that have had diseases, they were healed, just by showing up. So I'm gonna put this out here because we're gonna move in that direction, and I'm glad Steve talked about it. I'm gonna put my email out here, my personal email. So to all you scammers, please don't go and try to come scam. I don't put no money in none of my checking accounts. So go to andrehill930@gmail if you're interested in joining our CE5 team. Meaning we're going to organize a group of us. We're going to go out into a remote area. Don't worry about nobody shooting you or anything. We're going to go out and we're going to start the process of calling on these entities. Now, I had a personal CE5 experience in February 1990. It was only me and my son in the house, but in broad daylight, they took me up into the light and opened me up and reconfigured my spiritual DNA to give me the confidence to do what I'm doing right now. So I had a one-on-one CE5 event. So I know it's real. I know it exists. I'm healed. I got new problems, but every time you make contact with them, they enter into your spiritual DNA and they activate your supernatural powers for you to heal yourself, heal the people around you, and your nation and your planet. This is real. I experienced it. And so Steve Kerwood, if he's organized that, I'm going to be communicating with him on the PRIS protocol. The chairman, we hope the chairman will do it up in the Detroit region. Steve, you in Massachusetts or where? Okay, he's frozen.
Yeah, I have a little trouble with the circuit here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. I'm outside of Boston. I think that the CE5 got me to this process. So I had a friend who had this experience, who'd gone with Greer, not a person of color, as an Anglo guy, British guy, who'd gone with Greer to one of these things along the coast in Florida and had this experience and talked about it. And I said, oh, yeah, sure. What the heck? Yeah. But fast forward to later in life, we realized, oh my God, this is extremely important. And he'd actually written a couple of books about this.
Yes.
He allowed his experience, which he told me and a group of friends about, which I was skeptical about way back when. He recently passed, sadly. Allowed me to at least be willing to look at what Greer is doing, because his name also was Stephen. My friend Stephen had this experience. So I said, all right, well, then what's going on with this guy Greer? And so this is the path. So we might want to think about
Is he there?
I believe he's frozen.
Okay, so what Steve is saying, we may want to think about, it's mandatory. The only way we're going to get the technology to protect our self-sustainable community, we're going to have to make direct contact with these beings. We got to make it on behalf of 80% of the planet is brown, and we have to represent them. Steve, we lost you for a minute. You there?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we're talking about is, I went ahead and I have to follow the instructions.
Yeah, let me. Let me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have to follow the instructions, and so I'm gonna open up my email. Send me an email to andrehill930@gmail that you're interested in the CE5. Attending one of these gatherings where we make direct contact with the extraterrestrials, where the ones that the most civilized ones, the benevolent ones that are waiting on us to come together and heal this planet. I mean, so once again, this show is about identifying the small group of people that's ready to come into your true family and get this exposure. So as we wrap it up, Marvin, you have any closing statements or questions?
I do not.
Okay.
Great learning experience.
All right. So, Chairman, you have any closing experience? Because on our next show, I did make contact with the YouTube pilot that had an encounter with a extraterrestrial being. He's a Caucasian guy, and he's in Alaska, and he's moving to Florida. And man, we're going to talk about his story, and also one of the contractors that experienced something on our next show as we wrap it up. But Chairman, do you have anything else you want to close out with?
Yes, one thing I'd like to say is that most of us in our country feel safe under this government. I'm saying that from experience of dealing with family and friends. They feel safe, like they don't have anything to worry about, so they don't have to get a gun out there to really protect themselves, But Stephen Greer, he's being protected because he's their ace in the hole. He's got what they want, and they are giving him his props totally. But if they need him, they can cut him loose and give him all the ammunition that he needs, and he can handle it. Some of us have it, but we just don't have the numbers that Stephen Greer has. Some of us have more than what Stephen Greer has, but we're just lone rangers, But we have to come together some way, somehow, because the American government is not going to protect us, because if they would have done it a long time ago. They're still killing people left and right out there, no protection. Black lives really don't matter. What's the deal? That's it. I'll land that plane.
So once again, go to upall.com. Order your book, pre-order your copy of the book, Lucifer's Revenge. It gives you all the power. It gives you a step-by-step plan of resurrecting and fixing this. Right now, our children in the melanated community, they shooting each other up. They're playing some serious games, male on females. You got the LGBT community recruiting them. You got a lot of crazy things going on. And, a lot of people saying, hey, I got mine. They need to worry about. Let me explain something to you. Reincarnation is real. And how you leave your children is what you coming back to. And for those that are still having problems with reincarnation, go and look at the documentary by the University of Virginia and History Channel called Science of the Soul. And they have over 2,000 cases of proof that reincarnation is real. So just because you think you're cruising now and you ain't gonna worry about the children because they won't listen to you, listen, we left them and we put them in this mess. And if we don't fix it, you're gonna come back in the next life to some of the same craziness all over again. And you're gonna have this perplexed look on your face. I can't believe I'm back in this bad soup again. So we are pushing that. Steve, we're getting ready to close out now. We want to bring you back in on the show. I made contact with the Colonel, the YouTube pilot, and he and I, we're going to set up a meeting where we brought, we comes on the show. And Steve, we want to talk to you again about the CE5. I put it out there. So if 10 or 15 or 4 or 5 people call me and say, I'm interested, that we'll take that small group. And my son is an astrologist, so he knows the alignment of the moon and when we need to be out there. So
Andre, I'm going to be a little unfair here.
Go ahead.
I'm going to be unfair and ask you to organize a CE5 gathering at some point in the near future. Greer organized a series of them on the full moon, not this month, but the previous month. And so find a great place. Florida is a terrific place for this. I mean, he's done them where did he do it on the coast?
On the East Coast.
He did it on the East Coast of Florida.
Yeah.
but organize one and invite us to it, because and the more the merrier. And
Yes.
the
Yes.
This past lives business and the reincarnation stuff, it's all true. And I will also leave people with, one way into this is the work of Dolores Cannon. I know she's a white woman from the Ozarks. Don't let that flummox you. Don't let that flummox you.
No.
Because that's there is probably, but we don't know this person yet. There is probably some spirit leader in Africa who has done, for centuries, there are so-called medicine man or the smart, the wisdom person in the tribe or whatever has had this contact with the ETs for healing.
Yes.
And for things like remote viewing and all this kind of stuff.
Yes.
And they find this by meditation. And you go to almost every traditional society around the world has this origin story of things coming from the sky. And whether or not it was, Ezekiel seeing the wheel or whatever. No, seriously.
No, all the stories in the Bible are ET encounters.
Right. And it's funny that the Bible and Dolores Cannon is really good about that gap in the history of Jesus. The Bible talks about him as a kid, really, or as an adult, and then it flashes forward to him in his 30s, in his last days. Where was he in between?
Right.
Well, he was working with a group called the Essenes, which was a kind of radical pacifist alternative to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which were the big factions among the Jews. Now, the Essenes have certain factors which, for today are troublesome, because they were celibate and they just were male. They really didn't want to admit women, but they were very pacifist and let's love each other approach instead of the eye for an eye approach. And that's where Jesus got his training, apparently. So but what I'm trying to say is that I'm sure that through time and around the world, there are others who have this skill. But we're called in the United States because of our original sin. The Nazis did this too around the atomic weapons.
Yeah.
And the white people in the original sin around all these fossil fuels being burned to destabilize the planet. So the ETs are focusing in. They come. So there are only the power elite that Greer is talking about. It's a white power elite that's involved with this. So the ETs, they're seeing that as a nice place to intervene, because they think that if they can unhorse that system, it will really help us all. And I think they're right. So I'll just close with, let's keep our eyes open as this is unraveling in public. I think that Marco Rubio is a surprising first step. I saw that the New York Post carried his stuff. New York Magazine had his stuff. It's still not on the nightly news on NBC, but Greer said that what Mike Wallace was told he couldn't do this story back in the day.
Yeah, I remember.
But it's now, I think it's moving closer to a bigger reveal. And because the ETs know over the short term, they've got to stop the military industrial complex from shooting at them, right?
Right.
I mean, it's really dangerous. So, but we all know on this call that unless we take it to all of us on the planet, and like I said, 80% of us are melanated on the planet, that we're not going to get a long-term solution. There's a short-term emergency, and he's an emergency room doctor in a way, you got to stop the bleeding. But there's, and so I support that. But Andre, my challenge to you is pull together a CE5 with some melanated folks They don't all have to be melanated, but largely melanated folks who are willing to use this connection through consciousness with the ETs. And if we show this to them, they will start to give us more power.
Absolutely.
To do this.
Absolutely.
The flip side, though, is if we don't, very hazardous to everyone's health. No, seriously.
No, this is when I tell people we can do this from an extraterrestrial perspective. We can do this the easy way or the real easy way. And the easy way is for you to wake up and come together and say, hey, we're tired of this crap, and we're gonna move in the direction of shutting it down. That's the easy way. The real easy way.
Hey, Pops.
Yeah.
Before you go off on a tangent, I really like the proposal here by Mr. Kerwood. I'm going to make some statements on it. First, a very organized plan for a CE5 meditation. Let's do it in conjunction with the promotion of the book. In other words, the next time we have a show, let's continue to talk about a CE5 meditation. Now here are my thoughts on it overall. When it comes to tapping into frequencies that are deemed telepathic or deemed fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional frequencies, to where we're communicating with beings extraterrestrial, extra dimensional, and so on and so forth. In 2023, there are a lot of humans, and I've been observing this, who are waking up and beginning to practice, let's say, even ancient techniques of meditation. Like you said earlier, Mr. Kerwood, when you think about the shaman in the woods, you have to really take a look at that situation. That is a person who is extremely harmonious with his environment as well. And that's one of the key things here. So when we think about doing a CE5 meditation, we want to make contact and communication with advanced civilizations. Like Mr. Kerwood has been saying this entire show, advanced civilizations are very smart. So this is how they're going to probably look at us. And I'm saying this from experience. We don't have a lot of time for me to get into that, but I'm saying this from experience. An advanced civilization is going to look at us and say, oh, okay, so they finally learned how to pick up the telephone. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But also, they want to make contact. And what do they want to make contact with us for? For information that'll help us evolve spiritually and technologically. And I'm going to get to a point to where we have to realize those things are not separate. Spirituality and technology is not separate, guys. So they're going to look at us and say, okay, well, I understand you guys want to, for one, fix your dilemma with being under the regime of parasitic elites on your planet. You're going through a season, all planets go through that season. We went through that season, we made it through it. That's why we're at this advanced state, right? But so since you guys are going through it, yeah, we can't intervene, because that's like putting training wheels on a bicycle for a teenager. At some point, you're going to have to learn how to walk, run, fly on your own too. Now, what we can and can't do, speaking from an advanced civilization's perspective, since we still realize that you guys are strong consumers, you're not very, very in tune with your environment and your planet, which has allowed parasitic entities to come in almost like a virus and do just what a virus does in the body, which is convert cells into cancerous or viral cells, which will infect other cells. So till we get to that point to where we realize, or we have a very strong direction on saying, hey, we want to be as self-sustainable as possible in this world. Meaning, yes, we're going to have to become educated on what we deem environmentalism to some extent on this planet before we're even eligible to receive information about advanced technology. Because like you said, or better yet, Stephen Greer said this in the video. what would happen to a civilization who's given too much technology before they're spiritually advanced? They're just going to wipe themselves out in the next year. A advanced civilization can easily look at us and say, yeah, that's where they're at. We can't give them this type of technology just yet, because again, they're surrounded and constantly consuming parasitic influence. And so at this point, they're not ready for that technology. The way I believe we prove we're ready for that type of spiritual information, which is coincidence with spiritual technology, is we have to make a deliberate plan of action along with a CE5 meditation, or a series of them, to say, one of the reasons we are doing the CE5 meditations is not just to realize that you guys exist, but what we also plan on doing is curating as many self-sustainable microcosms, in other words, communities, collectives, and geographic locations on this planet that say, hey, when we wake up from day to day, when this collective wakes up from day to day, we understand exactly where our water comes from. We understand exactly what capacity of our power that we use. We understand exactly where our food comes from. We also understand exactly how all of those practices, all of those operations affect our immediate ecosystem. In other words, we are real, true stewards of our planet. Then they can say, oh, okay, now you at phase one of stepping into what we would deem as type 1 civilization. And yes, now we can pull up to your planet to some extent, and we don't have to worry about getting shot down, because now you have a very deliberate separation and or rectification of even the parasites on your planet who are willing to shoot us down by coming and talk to you. Now, as a side note, I'll say this as well. And when I was saying earlier, from my own experience of having contact with extraterrestrial and or extra dimensional beings, if a ship can be shot down, probably one of the lower tier extraterrestrials. The ones who can communicate with us telepathically and or simply just evade or evade, yes, just be evasive to any hostile actions by anybody on this planet, those are the ones who are really going to show up in the first place. Those are the ones that we need to be talking to. But they're only going to make a strong decision on saying, okay, these are the ones that need to be contacted. Is when we show by example that yes, we figured out how to call you, and this is what we plan on doing with the information once we communicate with you. So I'm believe it or not, regardless of my facial expression, I'm ecstatic about planning and strategizing CE5 meditations, but I feel it's paramount that we have a very strong collective and deliberate mind state on what we want to do with contact. And I'll land that plane there.
Well,
there's a one-line answer for the contact, Andre, or Junior, I'm sorry. That is peace. They want us to become peaceful, get rid of these atom bombs, stop chopping down the forest and killing people. They want us to be peaceful.
Yes.
So that's the deal. That's the deal. That's a negotiation. We offer them peace. They're going to open things up for us in a huge way. That's my thought.
That's the protocol that we're going to approach. So for those listeners, I know we've been on this show, what we got, 2 hours?
2 hours.
Yeah, so we've been on this show, and I know your attention span is very short, but encourage people to watch this show. But for those people that feel they're ready to be a part of this CE5, I gave you my email address. It's andrehill930@gmail. If you're interested, join us. You got ailments, they're going to heal you. If you're fearful that you're going to get shot and all that, they're going to protect you. But if you're conscious, if you feel you're a benevolent soul, let's give it this movement. Go to our website, upall.com. That's like upall.com. Pre-order the book. It's a complete manual of everything that I experienced with the show, what the beginning of why Lucifer did what he did, and then a step-by-step menu on how we're gonna resurrect this planet. I want, my son is, what are you, 37 now?
Yeah, man.
My son is 37. I want him to survive. All of you parents out there that claim you love your children, let's help them get through this. When we have the formula, you don't have to sit back afraid. We got this. Just join. Go buy that book, pre-order it. We'll get it out to you in 15 to 30 days. It's in the final stages of production. It's going to change your life. It's going to give you and your children the self-esteem needed to understand what happened on this planet and how we're going to reclaim it. Hey, I'm out. I'll let my son close us out.
All righty, guys. If no one else has any more final thoughts, conclusions to convey, I will close this out. So we all good?
We're good. Thank you.
It's been the Straight Talk Network show. We may see you guys again next Saturday. We'll definitely let you know. I'm thinking we need to, because I think I want us to really organize this C5 meditation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, peace and love, everyone. We'll see you.